Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Jennifer, and today I'm doing my 100 subscriber Q&A. And again, I want to thank you guys for 100 subscribers. I think it's awesome that there are at least 100 of you that think I have anything worthy to say about books or anything. So I mentioned kind of briefly in my thank you for 100 subscribers video that I was going to give you guys something. It's not a book. It's something a little bit more personal and something here I do on my channel. And I have created a printable reading log for you guys. So I will have a link down in the description that you can follow where you can go and print it out. I created a reading log because I log what I read in my journals. I think it's a good way to not only track your reading, but to also see your ups and downs throughout the year, I guess, as well. And I'd like to encourage people to start reading journals. When I started journaling, I did not know how to make any sort of spreadsheets in my journal, and I started off with printable calendars and glued and pasted those into my journals because I didn't know how to make a layout, and I wasn't comfortable with making one. So I made y'all a layout that is very similar to what I do in my journals. And this is it right here, and you could probably adjust the sizing for the size of your journal. But it has the day where you can write the days of the weeks here, like I do in my journal, book titles, how many pages you read. So on this page section, you could either write down how many pages you actually read or what page number you got into your book. And same thing, and you can pretty much do whatever you want for the time as well. You can write the seconds you read, the minutes you read. You can write out the hours and minutes. I like to do decimals in mine. That's just my personal preference. So I figured I could make a reading log for you guys that you can print out, glue it into journals, or just keep it in a folder. Printouts are very helpful to those who just started journaling. So if there's been people who are considering it, this is a good way to start out. I know not a lot of you will use this, but I wanted to make this. It's really easy to make in Excel, but I wanted to give you guys something that I would use, something that I use personally or something similar to it, to encourage you guys to do what I do here on my channel. I don't know if that makes sense, but real quick, I'll show you the side-by-side comparison between this and what I actually do in my journal. So it's pretty much the same thing. It's just the sizing is a little bit different. This is the day section that I have there, and I write the Wednesday, whatever day it starts off with. Monday's an M, Tuesday's a T, Wednesday's a W, Thursday is a TH, Friday's an F, Saturday's an S, and Sunday's an SU. And I write whatever that date of the week is by like what day that week is as well. And then I write my titles, the pages I read, how many pages I read, and the hours I read. So it's very similar. The sizing is just a bit more different. I think it would be a lot easier to do on lined paper than it would graphed or dotted, but it's all about personal preference. So yeah, if that's something you want to check out or try to get into, again, I will have that link down in the description below so you can check it out, print it, adjust it to whatever sizing you needed, whatever. So yeah, kind of lame, but I kind of think it's cool. So I'm just going to now get into the questions that I was asked for 100 subscribers. Dane Reeds asks, how do you decide what to read next? I think I mentioned this once before on my channel, but I'm an extremely indecisive person. I cannot look at my bookshelf and decide which one book do I want to read next. I have a TBR jar. I have these little lucky stars in here that I write titles of all these books on, and when I'm ready for a new book, I just shake up my jar and pull out a random star in here, and that is the book that I will read next. Dane Reeds also asked If you got $100 to spend on books, how would you choose what books to buy or what to spend it on? And this is kind of what I do when I'm in an actual store and I have a high dollar amount of gift cards. I immediately go to whomever is working at the store and I ask them for certain books I'm looking for, and I'll grab those. And of course, those books usually don't add up to $100. So then I'll just roam around the store, just grabbing and picking up books that I think are interesting or sound good. And I'll just add up the subtotal in my head. And when I get to about $100, it's like, okay, that's all I'm getting. Now, if I was shopping on Amazon, again, I'd kind of do the similar thing. I would get the books that I've been looking for the most, or I've been really wanting to get on my hands, and then I'll like prioritize them from like, you know, what I want the most to what I want the least until my subtotal is about $100. Hey Little Thrifter asks if there are any books that I want to reread, and if so, which ones? I have 2 books that I've really been wanting to reread. So any and all the books that I keep that I enjoy, I eventually want to reread those. But 2 books that I've been really craving to reread recently are Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. I read this back in like my first or second year in college for a summer literature course, and this was the first book that we read. And we finished it in a week, but I loved this book all the way through. It was just really fun and exciting, and I think it's interesting that this book doesn't have any chapters. Everything just kind of bleeds together. So if you're that type of person that has to stop at a chapter, you can't just stop at random points in the book, this would be a difficult book to read, but I just thought it was really enjoyable, and I definitely like to revisit it. And the other book that I've been really wanting to reread recently too is Lolita by Vladimir Novinkov. I believe I'm saying his last name right. For those of you who don't know what Lolita is about a pedophile, and like this guy is like preying on this girl, and he kind of kidnaps her pretty much. But what's interesting, it's not written from Vladimir Novinkov's point of view. There's a lot of, I'm not sure if this is considered lore or if it's actual fact. This book is based off a series of letters written by a guy who was in jail because of pedophilia. And I believe that's what this book is centered around. But Vladimir Novinkov's style of writing is beautiful and lyrical, and like, I don't want to make it sound bad, but the writing style almost lessens the severity of what the book is about. Like, you read something and you're like, oh, that sounds beautiful, and then you think it over and you're like, oh no, that's wrong, how could somebody think that or say that? And you reread it. I don't know how to explain it. I feel, because it's written by Vladimir Novinkov, but it's supposed to be from this other guy's point of view, I feel like Vladimir was purposely trying to write this way to make you feel some sort of sympathy or somehow agree with the antagonist or main character. Like, I don't know how to explain it, and if you've read the book before, I think you would kind of understand where I'm coming from. If you've never read this book before, don't listen to what I say. You're not gonna like it. If you just take what I say. But it was a good book. It was really well written, and I'd like to reread it sometime again. Bookie Laura asked me, what is my favorite genre to read and why? Now, in general, I don't think I have a specific genre I like to read. I feel like I read a lot of different types of genres, and I'm not set like on one specific genre. But one genre that I am rarely disappointed in is horror. A lot of horror books, it doesn't matter how dense or thick the writing is, I'm always just so sucked into horror stories, and it's always a fun adventure, and I'm kind of weird. I like the feeling of being scared, and reading horror stories is just like my cup of tea. Now, Leslie Carty asked me a couple of questions, and one of those first questions is, Where are you from and where do you currently live? I was born in Florida. I know it's hard to believe with this paleness, but I was pretty much raised here in Texas, and I still currently live in North Texas now. She also asked me how old I was. I am 22, quite young, and I will be turning 23 on October 29th. And she also asked me what is my top 3 fictional crushes. Well, I couldn't think of 3, so I only have 2. But you never specified literary fictional crushes. So I have one that's literary, but I also have one that's based off of a movie. So the first one is Raoul from Phantom of the Opera. I like him both from the book and from the 2000 versions of the movie. They chose a very attractive actor for Raoul. And then the other one would be Captain Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't know why I like that character. I think it's just played really well by Johnny Depp. I think Johnny Depp is a very attractive man, and that probably plays a part in it, but Jack Sparrow is just a really funny character. He's very over the top, and I don't know, he's cute. Leslie also asked me if I have any pets, and if so, what kind. I've featured them on my channel one other time on one of my previous book tags. I will find that and link that down in the description below if you actually want to see them. But I have 4 pets. I have 2 cats. One is a female tabby cat that is extremely obese. And I have a male black Maine Coon, and he's not fat, he's just large. And then I have 2 Chihuahuas. One name is Rudy, and he's a tan and white color. And then the other one's name is Poncho, and he's white and black and long-haired. Cozy Reader asked me, how many books would you take on a week-long vacation, and how would you pick which ones to take? It would kind of depend what I was currently reading before I started my vacation. If I'm in the middle of an extremely long book and there's no chance of me finishing it within the week, I'll just take that one book. But if I'm like reading a shorter book or I'm close to finishing a long book, I'll take 3 or 4 other shorter books with me. I won't take long books with me on vacation unless I'm already in the middle of one. And honestly, I would just pick one out of my TBR jar. And I wouldn't, maybe ones that are a little bit more fluffy or a little bit more exciting, ones that might be able to be read quicker over that week period of time. But I wouldn't choose any specific titles. Anthony Andrews asked me, what do I film on? And I am filming on my phone. I have a Galaxy, but I did used to, if you go and look back on my older videos, the quality is definitely a lot worse, and that was because I was filming off my webcam on my laptop. Alex Black asked me a couple of questions as well, and they asked, what is the #1 book that you would recommend? Lord of the Flies. I'm pretty sure most of us here have read this before. It is a classic. This book has so many different messages. I believe it can be applied to anywhere in society at any point. And it's just a really good read. It's quite easy to read too. I believe it was written for the intention of like older kids or young teenagers. So almost everybody that I've recommended this to or have read this book before have liked it. And it's a pretty safe recommendation for almost anybody. Alex Black also asked me what books have been on my TBR the longest, but I keep putting off. And those books would be the Uglies series. I have 3 out of 4 of them. I believe there are 4. It's the Uglies, the Pretties, the Specials, and something else. I'm pretty sure there's 4 books. I think I've had these books on my bookshelf for at least 4 or 5 years, maybe even longer. And the reason why I keep putting them off is because I enjoyed the first book when I was younger, and I think I started the second book, but I didn't like it. So I just never continued it, and then for some reason, on a whim, I bought all 3. And I've been putting them off because just like with the House of Night series, I loved that series when I was younger in high school, and now I'm not enjoying it at all, and I'm afraid this is going to be the same way with these books, so I just kind of been avoiding it. Caitlin Killjoy asked me what inspired me to start making videos. And in all honesty, I wasn't inspired by anything. I just needed some sort of outlet that I could talk about books and talk about books with other people. And I tried blogging once before on a blog website and I didn't like it. And I think I tried other similar things kind of like that. And I don't like writing. I much rather talk than write. So then I decided why not start making videos. And that in itself is how I discovered BookTube. And Dead Sense Media asked me if there are any books that I like that are based off video games, and if so, why? And yes, there is. There is one I can think of. I like playing video games, for those of you who don't already know. There is a video game called Metro Last Light. It is a horror video game. It takes place in Russia, and something nuclear happened, and now the surface up top is unlivable, so all these citizens in this area are having to live in the metro systems underneath the ground. And that video game is based off of a trilogy of books. The first one is Metro 2033, second one is 2034, and the third one that I don't own is 2035. It is a horror game. There are creatures and monsters and bad people, and if you play video games and you like shooter games, I would definitely encourage you guys to go check it out. But that video game is based off the books. I haven't actually read the books themselves, but I figured out that the books were a thing based off the video games. I've always liked the video games longer than books, and that's how I found out about these. So that is all the questions I got asked. Thank you for asking me questions. Thank you for subscribing. I really appreciate every single one of you. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.